I'm Tim Ard with Forest Applications on behalf of LVEX Safety, and want to say welcome to Incident Prevention 2011 here at IQ. And we're going to be talking a little bit about some chainsaw safety. And more or less, I travel around the country working from sea to shining sea, talking about different situations that affect operators with chainsaws, whether it be construction, whether it be power, whether it be tree care, disaster cleanup. Basically the same type of situations occur. And so we want to start off just a little bit with a couple things. And we're going to do a little demonstration here in just a minute on leg protection for the chainsaw, but I want to kind of start off on top. And that being, if you're out around trees, you want to think about your head. Protection on your head is important because trees, it's a natural process for them to get rid of limbs and oftentimes broken debris if you're doing storm cleanup. So we want to make sure that we take and think about things coming down. Hard hat helps us to protect our head. Face protection, when you're pulling debris or brush away from your workloads, you want to make sure that you have something to keep those branches and things from striking in the face. And then also we want to think about safety glasses. Now the glasses I have on here, they're just normal glasses I need to function. But here we have glasses that we can work with. These are safety glasses, and they also have readers inserted. So for us old guys, we're able to keep our prescription and still be able to work safely. On down, another area has to do with our hands. And gloves are something that are important when operating a chainsaw, simply because a lot of times we take a hand off of the chainsaw, we have to catch something or move something, and the number one injury over the years, until the past about 5 years, has been the left hand. So we always recommend the use of gloves, something to give you a little bit of reaction time. On down to visibility is important, brighter colors so that you can keep track of where you are, and then on down into leg protection. Leg protection has become really the number one area now for lacerations or cuts from a chainsaw. And when we start to look at leg protection, if you lose control of the saw for some reason, most of the time it's going to go down. And so chaps such as these, we're going to do a little demonstration here in just a few minutes with it. But I want to show you something about the chainsaw as far as some starting, take a look at operation, and also I've got a little animal here we call a spring pole. This causes a lot of chainsaws to be thrown at the operator, and so I want to show you a couple techniques on that. So that's kind of it. Also, you do want to think about some good heavy-duty boots. You don't want to be out working with a chainsaw with sneakers or light hiking boots, simply because you need good traction. You need something that prevents some penetration by sharp sticks, and also you want to make sure that you have some reaction time from the saw. So those kinds of things are very important. And one other thing I kind of passed over, you can see my little antlers here. These are called hearing protectors. And anytime you're operating a chainsaw, when we start it up, you're working in decibels higher than 85 to 90. So in the workplace, you want to make sure, or when you're just working with a saw, you want to make sure that you're limiting some of that noise to your ears. So hearing protections or earplugs are very important to reduce that noise to your hearing. So as we start to think through this here, let me pick up the chainsaw. Now this is a little larger saw. A lot of times homeowners' work would be maybe a little bit something smaller, but this is more or less a professional size saw. But it has a couple nice features on it. It has what we call a chain brake assembly. It has a throttle interlock. And we also have down here on the bottom a chain catch. Now, if you operate a chainsaw long enough, you're probably going to end up with a chain derailing at some point, cutting with brush and all. You want to make sure you keep it snug, but it has the possibility of coming off. This little catch right here stops the rotation and shortens the distance the chain can make it back around to the operator. When you take your hand off of this assembly here, basically the chain stops, but it also keeps you from depressing the throttle trigger. So that's called the interlock. And then this one is a chain brake. And more or less it's a band system, goes around, and you can take and be able to operate the chain here, but then you can flip this forward, it locks it down. I use it like a parking brake. So if you're starting the chainsaw, moving around with it, you're able to take and put that brake on, it reduces the chances of that chain spinning and coming in contact with you. So now I want to think about starting the saw up. And so 2 different ways we recommend on that. If you check your owner's manual, it'll also kind of talk about these 2 things. And that being either on the ground or a safely supported manner. Now here we've got a lot of gravel and things on the ground, so it's not real ideal, but I can put my brake on to be able to limit that chance. I can put a toe in the back here, I can hold this down, and then be able to start. But sometimes where you're working, it has a lot more debris. You need to make sure that that's clear around, but you also can use this method. It's called a clamp start. Now, the clamp start, I can put this chain brake on, I can grab the handle, and then be able to clamp it between my knees. So that gives me a full starting power and very little loss of control chances of the chainsaw. Now, to start this one up too, making sure that it's running correctly, I want to depress my throttle and I'm going to go all the way down to the choke position because it's fairly cool. Then I'm going to start the rope, I'm going to pull the rope and just wait for the first fire, and then I'm going to take and come up 1 notch, pull till it runs, then I'm in the run position. You'll notice then I'll take the brake off, be able to check the saw. And what I'm looking for is I don't want that chain to be turning, I want it to be still, and then I want to take and be able to have it idle without changing, and then hit the throttle. It should have acceleration. So let's see how this works. Whoop. So pull till it fires 1 time, then pull it up 1. I don't have my chain turning. I can go to high speed. Chain stops when I let off the throttle. I can make sure that it idles in all positions. And last, accelerate the saw. So everything seems to be running pretty well there. This first little thing I want to show you has to do with what we call spring poles. And spring poles are more or less limbs that are bent back around, or saplings that might be bent over or under load. And if you walk up to this and you cut in this position, you're going to end up with this piece standing straight up. It's under a lot of pressure. And so here now we want to think about, we've got to take and reduce this tension in the arc here, and so we need to find the middle of that arc. One quick way to do it is to take your hands and just form yourself a 90 degrees. Then you can sight the base of it down to the bottom, move your fingers together, and that gives you the middle of the arc. So somewhere right in through here would be that position. You can do it here on the board, but now we can also do it on the standing piece. Now, spring poles are always pinned on 2 ends. So you want to think about, if it's just bent over under load, it's still going to have rearward motion. But if it's pinned on 2 ends, that's what we call a spring pole, we must reduce it here in the large end. Now if this spring pole is higher than your shoulder, we can come up underneath the top, release it, just let it come back up over us. But here it's lower than our shoulder, so we want to make sure that we find that middle of the arc. So I'm going to take here, calculate this down. I get just about right in here would be the middle. Now, I want to stand at 45 degrees to the rear and just basically start to shave underneath at that position, allowing the pressure to come out. Now, if I were to cut up here, you see, this would come flying back. If I cut down lower, it comes up and jumps backwards. So here I want to take and just shave right at that 45. You see the pressure come right out. Now, this is kind of for demonstration here, but what you see is it hinges here to the back, the pressure comes out, and more or less, if it's pinned on two ends, this match will be even every time. So you don't get a quick release of pressure, you get an even release of pressure. That can be used for limbs. It can also be used in situations where you have the bent over saplings. And now, we'll take a look here. My glasses back out of the way. Oftentimes, spring pulls and other limbs or tops under pressure cause a situation of a chainsaw to be thrown or lose control of it. And so you want to make sure that you think about having your leg protection in place. Move this over here. You can see. So this particular set of chaps is the Elvex Prolar, and it's a ballistic nylon material that's set up to be able to jam the chainsaw. And so this leg here has long pads which enable us to hit with the chainsaw. It pulls the fiber out. Now, these chaps are not really designed to be cut proof, but hopefully it gives us some reaction time. But this is a pretty good size saw, so let's see what it does here. I'm just gonna cut into it like if I was to lose control, come back into my knee area here. That's one of the critical spots, and so we'll see how this works. So, see the jam now. Alright. You can see it comes around the bar chain and sprocket, just completely jams the saw. Now, the leg here that I have is not a real good test because it's a little bit rigid, a little bit hard. But I have a hard time finding volunteers. Now, at our 2 p.m. show, I hope to have a bigger crowd and more people, and surely I'll find somebody that wants to volunteer to try this. But let's just see. Actually, it didn't cut through, just the impact. There's a lot of force there, but it didn't even cut through the pads. You know, as I said, it's not designed to be cut proof, but if I had my choice of losing control of a chainsaw coming in, that's some pretty inexpensive insurance. And so we think it's well worth the time and effort and money. Well, I want to thank you all for coming by today.